TIAA is on a mission. Why? Because 54% of Black Americans don't have enough savings to retire. So in collaboration with big-name artists like Wyclef Jean, TIAA released Paper Right, new music inspiring a new financial future. With 100% of streaming sales going to a nonprofit that teaches students how to invest. Stream Paper Right now and help close the gap.
Those first 4 weeks, those first 5 weeks, it was a real struggle. I had to, every morning, a lot of prayer was involved, a lot of thinking about the future, a lot of thinking about why I was doing this, just to get myself through that 3-minute drive to the gym instead of turning around and going back to bed.
Hi, and welcome to Deep Leadership. I'm your host, John Rennie. Well, I hope all is well with you today. It is another beautiful day here in North Carolina, and this episode is brought to you by our sponsors, the Fraternity of Excellence, the Sasquatch Flag Company, and Jeremy Clevenger Fitness. These sponsors help me bring these shows to you each and every week, so I encourage you to click on their links below and check them out. I have another great show lined up for you today, but before we get started, I just want to remind you to check out the leadership books I've written on either Amazon or my website, johnsrennie.com. This year, I'm offering a new way to purchase all of my books for a discount. I've bundled the books into what I call the Qualified Leadership Series, and you get all 3 books for 15% off the individual prices. This offer is only available on my website, so check it out if you're looking to step up your leadership game this year. Also, I wanted to remind you that Deep Leadership is ranked as a top 100 management podcast in the U.S. and in the U.K., and I wanted to thank each and every one of you for listening in each week and sharing these episodes with your friends. You have helped this podcast grow into a top-performing show, so thank you very much. Well, that is it. Today we're going to be talking about how to make a major change in your life, and my guest is Dave Danna. A year ago, Dave was frustrated with his health and fitness level and decided to do something about it. Now, since then, he has lost more than 100 pounds and has become an inspiration to many. In that time, he has also strengthened himself financially, mentally, and spiritually. And I sat down with Dave to talk about his journey and how he developed the mindset and habits to make such a significant change in his life. Now, if you're feeling stuck in any area of your life, this conversation will help you see what's possible with focus and determination. So, are you ready to dive in? Let's get started.
Welcome to Deep Leadership. Leadership is a people business. That's the philosophy of your podcast host, John Rennie. As a former Cold War submarine officer who spent 20 plus years leading businesses in corporate America before starting his own manufacturing business, he knows that leadership matters. Are you ready for some real-world actionable advice from John as well as his expert guests?
I'm ready.
The show starts right now.
Welcome to the Deep Leadership Podcast. Today I'm joined by Dave Danna. Dave is a man on a mission. Last year, he made the decision to lose weight and get in shape, and he decided to share his journey online. Since then, he's lost more than 100 pounds, amassed 50,000 followers on Twitter, been acknowledged by Arnold Schwarzenegger himself, and been featured on Fox News and other news outlets, and he just seems to be getting started. I'm excited to have him on the show to talk about what it takes to acknowledge you have a problem and develop the mindset and habits to fix it. So Dave, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's my pleasure being here, and it's still amazing and unbelievable to hear that type of intro when it's being talked about me.
Well, congratulations. I've been following you for a while, and I've been following your journey, and it's very inspirational. So congratulations on losing 100 pounds and finishing your MBA. No easy task, and you did it all, and you're doing it all online. So congratulations on your journey so far.
Thank you very much.
So tell us your story. When did you decide enough is enough and I'm going to make a change?
Absolutely. So last year, almost 1 year to the date, it was May of 2022, I took a flight for the first time since the pandemic, and I needed to get a seatbelt extension on that flight. And that was that was the most embarrassing moment of my life. And so I came back from that trip, and I had just moved into this house, so everything was still in boxes, but I knew there was a scale somewhere. And so I dug it out and I got on the scale. That was June 1st of 2022, and it gave me an error message. So I assumed, cheap stuff these days, I'll buy a new one from Amazon and then I'll get my real weight. And then the new one came and I got on that scale and it gave me an error message. And then I looked back at the description on Amazon and I saw that this scale had a 400-pound limit. And I realized that it wasn't either of the scales. In fact, I still use that original scale today. It was me that was having the issue. And the issue was that I was over 400 pounds. So that combined with the seatbelt extension incident on the plane were my two wake-up calls. And so right then, basically June 2nd or June 3rd of last year, I started dieting and I started exercising, never having gone to the gym before, not really knowing what type of diet to follow. And for 4 weeks, I continued to get that error message. But on June 29th of 2022, I got 399.9 on the scale, which may not seem like much of an accomplishment to most, but it was my first big on-scale victory, let's say. And now almost a year later, I'm down in the 290s. But that was the original catalyst, the seatbelt extension, and then the error message on the scale last June.
Wow. It's interesting when I hear your story, because I think a lot of people might find themselves in that situation and they'll say, well, this is just who I am. This is just my lot in life. What went into your mind? Did you feel like you could fix this? Did you feel like you say, yes, I have a problem, but did you feel at that time that you had the skills to do it, to fix it?
No, to be honest, but I felt at that time that I needed to fix it. It was an issue of I didn't know what to do. Today we're bombarded by information, by infotainment, by analysis paralysis, and so you can find experts online telling you to do the complete opposite things, and you'll have the best results. So I definitely felt paralyzed at the time, but at the same time, I had the catalyst to change, and I had those two wake-up calls. So one of the things I did was I wanted to do something radically different than I had done before. As a big guy, as a fat guy, I had been over 300 pounds for several years at that point, and now I was over 400 pounds. I had tried dieting before. I had tried exercising before. It hadn't worked. And instead of spending a ton of time doing research and analysis, at that point in time, at over 400 pounds, being worried about chairs collapsing under me and having difficulty tying my shoes, I decided I was going to try a radically different approach. And I was just going to embrace trial and error. And I was going to embrace, getting comfortable and being in uncomfortable places like the gym, walking into the gym for the first time at over 400 pounds. And so I don't think I had the knowledge or necessarily the tools to know what I was doing, but I had the catalyst and I had the drive, especially early on, that I needed to make that change. And it's been a year of trial and error, a year of tweaking, a year of learning, and a year of getting comfortable being uncomfortable.
I absolutely love that. And I love the fact that you pointed it out. And I talk about this a lot in the podcast, is sometimes we just got to get started. And even though, and a lot of people get stuck, like you said, in paralysis by analysis. I'm going to analyze all these different diets and these different workout plans, and I'm going to do all the research. And meanwhile, each day is going by. And the best thing you can do, a lot of cases, is take action and make corrections along the way and learn, how does my body respond to this? How does my body respond to this? Okay, this is working. This isn't working. And using trial and error to find the best solution for you versus trying to find all the gurus that tells you, hey, you got to eat this and eat that and, do this workout. I love it. And I think that you're definitely, what you've proven through this past year is that the trial and error actually does work. And you actually found ways that you can make real changes and real physical changes to your body. And I think that's great. One thing that I want to ask you about is why did you decide to share your journey online? Why did you decide to make it public? Because I tend to be one of these guys. If I'm working on something, I'm going to do that in private, right? Yeah. And then come out and say, "Hey, look at me," type of thing. But you said, "No, I'm going to share this journey." And I'm just curious about that. Why did you make that decision to share it publicly?
Absolutely. So one of the things that I had done in the past that had not worked for me was not tackling my mental health issues as part of this journey and not tackling the mindset change, just focusing on the diet and exercise. And to be fair, that worked. I had lost 20, 30, 40 pounds in the past, but I always fell off the bandwagon. I was always miserable doing it. And I always gained all the weight and then some back. So this time around, one thing I wanted to embrace was admitting to myself that I had a problem, was admitting to myself that even though I'm a man, I do have some feelings and some emotions, and there's probably some mental health issues going on here. And I wanted to embrace a radically different approach where I didn't bottle it all up and push it all down and try to do it all myself, and where I admitted that no man is an island and I may need some external factors, some external things to keep myself accountable. And one thing I realized was I had gotten very good, especially during the COVID years where I was working remotely. I work in accounting and finance. And so that went remote immediately, and I wasn't seeing very many people. I live hundreds of miles from home, so there weren't many flights. I wasn't seeing much family for those years. I got really good at lying to myself. And so I initially started on Instagram. I started with my own name, and I started posting a gym selfie almost every day and a picture of my feet on the scale every Wednesday, weigh-in Wednesday, so that I could look back and see, this is me. They're pictures of me. I can see the accountability. I can see the progress or lack thereof to hold myself accountable so that I can't lie to myself. Because standing in the mirror every morning, I had gotten sort of scary good at telling myself everything was fine when everything clearly wasn't fine. And then from there, I moved on to Twitter to have some sort of, secondary source. And then, I can't explain the rest, but people are following me now. So now I keep posting, for two reasons. But the original reason was self-accountability and to take a different approach that more embraced mental health and mindset change and accountability rather than trying to do it all on my own.
I love it. And and it's been fun. Like I said, I've been following your journey, and it's been fun to watch you and see the progress and sort of cheer you on. I mean, it's a blast. I mean, and it says a lot about, like, you go in there for accountability reasons, but what it shows is also transparency. So you're saying, look, today wasn't a good, like some days. Like, so I couldn't get, you get up at 4, I'm a 4 a.m. guy too. So you're getting up at 4 a.m. every day so you can get to the gym. You're like, oh, I struggled. I didn't get up till 4:18 this morning.
Yeah, exactly.
And you're sharing your struggles. Yeah. And I think that's really important, because I think sometimes we only see the highlight reel for people, like, oh, look how great I am. I'm rich. I'm successful. I'm good looking. I've got this beautiful wife and 3 great kids. Everything's perfect. And we only see the highlight reels of most people. And you're saying, here's it all. Here's my full transparency, my good days, my bad days, my struggles. And I think that's really good to see. I think it's healthy to see that, that the people that are watching online are saying, hey, I have those same struggles myself too. I struggle with getting up every morning. I struggle with getting to the gym. I struggle with motivation, and I think that's really good, because I think it shows a real honesty and a real transparency. And I think it's good to see that. So we're not just seeing the highlight reels, we're seeing the whole story. So
I appreciate it. Yeah. One of the things I struggled with early on was there's a lot of people who have lost a lot of weight and then they come to social media. And they're like, well, I dropped 200 pounds, I dropped 300 pounds. And the only thing I did was use this product and here's a discount code. And to me, it's just like, I'm not sure if that's really what you did. And I'm not, so one of the things was I wanted to document it for myself. And I wanted to make sure that when I was documenting it, I was authentic. Sometimes I'm documenting losing less than a pound in a week, which, at my weight, should be losing a little bit more than that. Or some days I went to Philly recently for a wedding and I had a Philly cheesesteak, and, that got some comments, right? But it's who I am. And I'm still, I still have a corporate life and an academic life, a family life, a faith life. And sometimes there's going to be imperfections in the journey, and it's not going to be fully linear. And it was a real struggle with me early on, because you'd see these people who look fantastic and they have these before pictures where they look a lot bigger than that. But the in-between is just this sort of gray zone that that's what I'm trying to get through. That's the goal.
Yeah. You're giving light to the gray zone.
Yes. Yes.
So tell us about your early struggles. What was the most difficult part for you to get going, to get started? Was it mentally? Was it physically? Was it the diet? What was the biggest thing in the early stages in the early struggles?
There were 2 things that jump out. The first month was very hard because I started waking up early right off the bat. I work full time. I'm in finance and accounting. I work as a consultant, and at that point in time, I was doing my MBA in the evening. So the only time that I thought I could build a routine, which was important to me, was doing it early in the morning. And I thought if I did it later in the day, these are my workouts I'm talking about, I would find excuses to put it off and I would be tired. So that necessitated the 4:15 a.m. wake-ups every day that I'm still doing. That was very tough in the beginning. And it was also very tough because you're then getting up way earlier than you want to. and you're walking into the gym alone at over 400 pounds, and I don't know what any of the machines do, right? There are all these gym bros in there lifting more than I weigh, right? And so, it was waking up early to do something that was uncomfortable. And then every Wednesday for the first 4 or 5 weeks, getting on the scale to get that error message over and over again, that was a real mental hit on top of the fact that I'm pushing myself so hard. And then really, that's why I mentioned getting the 399.9 on June 29th of last year. That date is seared in my mind. That number is seared in my mind. I know it's a weight that most people will never see, luckily, thankfully. But for me, it was such a victory. It validated the last 4 or 5 weeks of walking into the gym at that size, of waking up that early, of really pushing myself. But those first 4 weeks, those first 5 weeks, it was a real struggle. I had to, every morning, a lot of prayer was involved, a lot of thinking about the future, a lot of thinking about why I was doing this, just to get myself through that 3-minute drive to the gym instead of turning around and going back to bed. And then the other big struggle I'll mention is I had avoided the doctor for years. I had a job, I had insurance, but of course I knew what the doctor would tell a 300 or 400 pound guy. And again, part of the lying to myself, part of the mental health issue, part of not admitting I had a problem was avoiding the doctor. So I went for the first time last September. So that was several months into the journey, and I had blood work done for the first time in my life. And my A1C and my blood glucose was still in the pre-diabetic range, and my resting heart rate was like 102, which is like bad. And my blood pressure was, 140 something. It was in that range where it's pretty much, a high blood pressure. And again, I had just turned 30 years old. So all of those should be in the ideal range. And that was a little disheartening. It was disheartening and motivating at the same time, because on the one hand, I had been working out and pushing myself for 3 or 4 months. And at the time I was still 370 pounds and all the blood work was bad. It was basically what the doctor was saying. But on the plus side, I didn't know how bad it had been to start with, but I can only imagine how bad it had been if I had gone 6 months earlier. But those were the two struggle points early, getting that initial blood work and seeing all those red flags. And that first month, not even be able to get my own weight. I mean, that was the first 4 or 5 weeks were really tough.
Yeah. And I think it just shows, again, the example of sometimes you just have to persevere, even if you don't see the progress, and eventually you do. And I think that that's a great story, because I can only imagine you're getting on the scale every week. You're changing your lifestyle. You're doing all the right things, and you're getting on the scale and you're making no progress. And, you're still seeing the error message. And I can see where a lot of people would just say, I give up. I mean, this isn't working. And I'm just going to be big. And that's who I am. But instead he kept at it. And all of a sudden, June 29th, boom. Yes. You're like, oh, yeah, I bet your mind. Imagine you were like, oh, shoot, this thing works.
It was a huge victory. And I remember celebrating. I remember telling my girlfriend that. I remember thinking to myself, this is both a huge moment for me and kind of sad that I've gotten to the point where I'm celebrating 399.9, but that's not going to stop me, right? That was a huge motivator for the next couple of months when I was still in the 390s, still in the 380s, still in the 370s. Yeah, but I'm getting a number now, which is more than I could say when I first started.
and you just recently went under 300 when it was just not too long ago. Because I remember you posted it
a couple of weeks ago. Yeah,
I was just like, yes. I mean, I'm like, cheering you on. I'm like, you're like one of your biggest fans now, because I'm just like, let's go. You got this. And I'm like, and that's one of the things I want to ask you about is, what's it been like sharing your journey, with the world? What have been some of your biggest surprises with the general public, and some of your biggest disappointments with the kind of interactions you see with people?
Overwhelmingly positive, and overwhelmingly my reaction has been kind of stunned, to be honest. Just one, that people want to follow me. Two, that it's on Twitter, which in my opinion is like the most volatile political culture war type of place, right? Like, especially in the last, 6 to 12 months, and that it has been such a positive experience, especially from, those gym bros who were initially so intimidating when I walked in at over 400 pounds and really didn't know anything. And especially because for the first 6 to 9 months of this journey, I didn't touch the weights. I didn't touch the strength training. I was scared of injury. I didn't know what I was doing. Even then, I was still at over 350 pounds at that point. And so I just did very basic cardio for like 30, 35 minutes a day. At that type of weight, you're burning some calories and getting the heart rate up and blood pumping, pretty much doing any physical activity for half an hour. And just the level of encouragement and the level of positivity I was getting from this ever-growing community of guys who were doing what I considered like basically Herculean feats in the gym. And I'm just there, doing almost relatively nothing comparatively and completely covered in sweat in 27 minutes just because I was so big. The social media reaction has been completely mind-blowing, and people tell me now regularly how much I inspire them and motivate them. And honestly, it's crazy to me, and it's a circle at this point because that motivates and inspires me to keep going. But overwhelmingly positive and overwhelmingly crazy, not only like when Arnold Schwarzenegger reaches out and retweets me and features me, but also just the volume of DMs, I'm probably thousands of them behind, on Instagram and Twitter, of people just being like, I joined a gym, like I stopped drinking, it's just stuff that not even really related to what I'm doing, but just making a change, making that first step. Because I remember how hard making that first step was and how much I wanted to tell someone in those first few weeks before you could see any changes that I was doing something, and having them reach out to me as that person they're telling. It's so meaningful. It's been wildly positive. There are trolls, a very small number of trolls, but I try to react to them in a positive way, and I try to let them drive and motivate me even more. Kill them with kindness is sort of the approach I've taken. There's so much debate and back and forth on Twitter and in most social media platforms, and I don't think it's healthy. We live in a culture of extremes, and that's the same, politics, culture, fitness, and I try not to engage with that. It's not worth it to me. People ask me what the strategy is, why I'm doing it, what the goal is. I don't really know, right? I just started doing this for accountability to lose weight. There's no media manager. I'm not selling coaching or anything. I'm just trying to lose weight and documenting it. And it's been mind blowing that people continue to follow me. It's been an incredibly positive and unexpected experience.
We'll be right back after a quick word from our sponsors.
Leadership skills are like any other skills. You need to practice them to get better at them. Best-selling leadership author John S. Rennie knows this. That's why he's written a new book called You Have the Watch. It's a guided journal for leaders designed to take you through an entire year of leadership training. By the end of the year, you will master 50 of the most important leadership skills. If you want to have a greater impact on the results and people in your organization, go to youhavethewatch.com and pick up your copy today.
This episode is brought to you by the Fraternity of Excellence. The Fraternity of Excellence is an online and real-world community for men who are looking to improve in all areas of their lives. The men of FOE are working together to become better husbands, fathers, and leaders at work and in their communities. They live by a simple philosophy: as iron sharpens iron, so one man sharpens another. Now, I've been a member for more than 3 years, and for me, I finally found a brotherhood of men that I was missing from my time in the military. Now, I love being around guys who are dedicated to becoming a better version of themselves. So if you're interested in becoming a man of excellence as well, go to fraternityofexcellence.com, or you can reach out directly to me to learn more. This episode is brought to you by the Sasquatch Flag Company. The Sasquatch Flag Company is a family-owned business in New England that builds hand-carved American flags from seasoned white pine. Each flag is hand-built, and each star on the flag is hand-hammered and chiseled. No two flags are alike. They offer a variety of flag designs to honor the police, military, firefighters, dispatchers, and search and rescue personnel, to name a few. These stunning handmade flags look great in an office, a studio, the back porch, or above the fireplace mantle. They make the perfect gift for the veteran, first responder, or patriot in your life. Now, I love these flags, and I've been giving them as gifts for years, and I was a customer long before they became a sponsor of the show. I can't recommend them enough. So if you're looking for that perfect, uniquely American-made gift to give away, or if you want to treat yourself, go to SasquatchFlags.com and get your order in today. This episode is brought to you by Jeremy Clevenger Fitness. As a high-performing leader, you know that leadership isn't about telling people what to do. It's about leading by example. And for most people, the one area that they're lacking when it comes to leading by example is their health and fitness. By improving your health and fitness, every other area of your life improves. But how do you get and stay fit as a busy leader? Well, you do what you've always done. You hire the best person for the job. Don't struggle on your own. Put Jeremy Clevenger on your team. Jeremy will work with you to take your physique, mindset, nutritional habits, and more to the next level with his step-by-step, all-inclusive coaching program. Now, I've worked with Jeremy for the past year, and I'm in the best shape of my life. If you want to step up your game, reach out to Jeremy at apexperformancesystems.com to find out more and get your initial consultation scheduled with him today.
Well, I think when you hit on one thing that's really important, I think, is, I kind of consider myself a gym bro. I've been actively in the gym for 10 years. I love weightlifting. It's one of my passions. But I would say this about gym bros is like, we love it when people come to the gym. We love it when people say, I want to learn how to do this. And I think it's probably just the opposite. I think most people feel intimidated when they see people around in heavy weights and grunting and making all the noises. But it seems like a community that's very open to like, oh, you want to try this? Come on, let me show you how to do this. And we were very much come join our sport because we love what we do. And I think we're always, as just speaking as a 10-year gym bro, is that we're always working to get better. And so we're always striving to get to that next level. So we get it when someone says, I want to get to the next level. We're like, come on, let me, here's what I did. Here's how I got to that. And so I think that, people may be intimidated to be around people who love being in the gym, but we're just the opposite. We're like a very humble crew trying to get better ourselves. So I think I'm glad to see that you've seen that reaction from the gym community as well too. Because I know for right away, I was like, yeah, let's go. As soon as I saw what you were doing, I'm like cheering you on from day one. So
it's one of the biggest things I wish I could go back and convince 400 plus pound Dave of, or even, so let's go back a few more years, 300 plus pound Dave, right when for 250, right whenever I should have started, is that gym intimidation or whatever they call it is completely out the window, at least in my case, but I'm pretty sure in many other people's cases, once you realize how supportive, how inclusive, and how motivating the gym bros really are, and that even the ones who might not want you to be there, they don't look at you. They don't care. They're minding their own business, right? They're trying to lift these incredible weights. They're not even looking at you. But 99.9%, it's one of the most positive and one of the most supportive communities, both online and in person. And getting tips, getting advice, getting anything you want from them. At first, I thought it was intimidating because there are people who've been there for decades and they're doing things that I probably will never get to. And then I realized that once you walk into the gym, all the other identities or stressors or things you have going on in your life go out the window for the 30 minutes, the 60 minutes you're in there, because everybody is just trying to work on self-improvement. They're trying to work on health. They're trying to work on matching or exceeding their personal bests or whatever goal they're training towards. And that creates this sort of instant bond, this instant community based on something that's really positive and really motivating. And from the outside looking in as a 400-pound guy, it's incredibly intimidating. And then from the inside looking out, I wish I could pull that 400-pound Dave in because it's so motivating and it's so inspiring and it's so positive. I mean, it's been, I say that I don't go to the gym particularly to lose weight. I don't burn like an impressive number of calories in my 30, 35-minute workouts. I can eat a candy bar and offset most of them. But the mental health boost, the confidence boost, the positivity boost, the optimism boost, especially doing it so early in the morning, walking out of the gym at 5:30 covered in sweat before anyone else has woken up. Even if the rest of the day is a train wreck, I feel like I've already been productive. I've already conquered the day. I've already won. And that's really the goal of 30 to 45 minutes of exercise a day. I mean, there's tons of health benefits as well, but it's just crazy how much it's done for me. And it's, one of the biggest things I tell people who haven't started yet or are starting or past Dave is that I wish I had started that part of this journey years and years earlier.
Yeah, I love it. I love to hear that. So the ultimate gym bro, Arnold Schwarzenegger, of which I have a poster in my gym of Arnold in his day, which is, he's, that idyllic body that he created back in the, 70s and 80s. Yeah. He's watching you online and he shouts you out and features you in his newsletter what goes through your mind when you see like this superhero? I mean, this real life superhero sort of, hey, saying, hey, Dave, way to go. What was that like?
Incredibly motivating. Just an incredible moment overall, to be honest, when I woke up and saw that. Again, I hadn't like tagged him or anything. He just found me. It was the first time ever I lifted. I don't even think it was 100 pounds with the bar. And, I wasn't doing it right. I now know, but I put it online, right, as part of my just accountability and transparency, just like a 9-second clip of me doing 2 or 3 reps of no noticeable weight. And he retweeted me, and not just retweeted me, but had a whole thread of tips and tricks, told me he was proud of me, which was mind blowing. And then told me he wanted updates. And so when I got under 3 pounds, I tweeted that out just a few weeks ago, and he retweeted it, and he reached out again, and he was like, all right, like, let's see, like, I want another update at 250. It's been incredibly motivating. Again, to see someone like that, there's so many public figures, so many celebrities that are engaged in far more narcissistic or political or culture war type things. And here he is, spending his 70s, I think, on Twitter and on Instagram, motivating people and being positive, hugely beneficial to me. The biggest motivator in the last 6 months has definitely been that, but also just a huge, a huge upvote for my faith in humanity, to be honest, that someone like him is just online giving lifting tips to people in Planet Fitness in his free time, right? Honestly, mind blowing. And like you mentioned, the fact that he continues to reach out, to give tips, to want updates, right? It wasn't just a one-time thing because he saw something going viral. It's been a continuous thing over 6 months now. And again, like, hugely personally motivating and inspiring, and just a huge boost in my confidence about just the future in general.
Oh, that is so good to see. That is, and again, you're right. It's just, it's a public figure that you never expect you'd ever have any personal interactions with, especially not having, not having much in common. Like you said, the Planet Fitness versus, the Golden Sun, and Mr. Olympia and all this stuff. It's just wild. And just so, and again, I think you're right. It restores faith in humanity. It makes you really appreciate that there are, there are good things in the world still.
Absolutely.
And people are still encouraging, and they're trying to help others. And I love that part of the story.
He's taking a break from, filming his new Netflix series to, make sure that I'm keeping my elbows tucked and not flaring them too much on my second lift ever. And, now that I've had a little more interaction with him, I know that it's him running that account. It's not his staff, which again is just like wild to me. Like, he's filming a Netflix special. He's a super celebrity, and a former politician. Right. And this is what he's doing in his very limited free time in his 70s. Just a complete mind blowing just event in my life, to be honest.
That's wild. And since then, you've been on the news, you've been in podcasts like this, and you've done things you've never done before, right? You hadn't been on podcasts and been on the news before like this, right?
No. So and originally I wasn't saying yes to a lot of interviews because I was 340 pounds, 50, 60 pounds. I still, it's out of my comfort zone. I'm an introverted, Jewish accountant, right? Like, it's way out of my comfort zone, and I'm not at my goal weight. I'm barely halfway there. Depending on exactly where I want to end. And so, but at some point I decided, to start saying yes. Again, part of that, getting comfortable, being uncomfortable, seeing how it would go, saying yes to more people. And again, an incredibly mind-blowing yet positive aspect of the journey that I never would have guessed. And it reminds me that there's so much in life, there's so many opportunities in life, and there's so much to do in life, that was one of the original catalysts that got me going. When I was over 400 pounds, I saw, my goal of being a father, being a husband one day, being a healthy role model for them, slipping away. And as this journey has progressed, all these other opportunities and things that have come along, from people wanting to talk to me, to Arnold Schwarzenegger, to again being on Fox News, and all the other stuff, has just reminded me that you never know what opportunities will come along, but that life is full of opportunities and full of optimism and full of positive things. But if I had stayed at over 400 pounds, and I was still gaining weight at that point in time, that those opportunities were slipping away. So that in and of itself is sort of a reinforcing, like, motivating factor to me at this point. Just another incredible aspect of the sort of an unbelievable last 6 to 10 months.
That's really good. That's really inspiring for sure. Absolutely.
Agree.
Things that we talk about on the show is, personal leadership, as I mentioned earlier, but it's about improving mentally, spiritually, financially, and physically, right? So we're working on all those things. And one of the things is I see you're doing that as well. So you just finished your MBA, which is, that's a mental exercise right there.
Thank you.
It's not easily done. And then you're also posting stuff about your financial journey. Like you were heavily in debt, and now you've worked yourself out of debt. So you're putting yourself in a better financial position, a better physical position, a better mental position. I see your faith is important to you. I see that spiritual element too. You're working on all those 4 elements all the time. So is that, did one spark the other, or did it just all of a sudden, like, I'm going to be working on all these things together?
I think they reinforce each other, at least for me. And I think one of the reasons, again, last year when I was thinking about what I was doing, by the time last year had rolled around, I had done a lot of work on my finances, for example, but I wasn't there yet. And I hadn't incorporated anything else, the spiritual, the physical, the mental. And I was thinking about what I wanted to do, how I wanted to make this radically different that hopefully would make it work where other diet and exercise routines had failed. And one of the things was, I think I have to admit to myself when I have a problem, whether it's with like crazy spending and the sort of endless consumerism, keeping up with the Joneses world, or whether it's with, sort of moving away from my faith, not a lot of Jews down here in the deep South, right? So I wanted to make sure that when I took the journey, I focused on multiple different things that I thought would make the journey more successful. And so finishing paying off all that credit card debt, finishing paying off my car loans, next up is my student loans, right, was a big part of that. And also, moving back towards my faith. And now with being 10 or 11 months in, I don't think it would have worked if I had just tried to isolate one of them and worked on them one at a time. It's just, that's not really how life works, right? So, right, so I think trying to isolate like my diet and really focus on it, although it seems like a good idea, is part of the reason I failed in the past, because I wasn't also working on my financial stability. I wasn't also reaching more for that next degree or certification. I wasn't working on my connection with God, things of that nature, working on my relationships, right? So they drive each other in that I'm taking a similar sort of trial and error, discipline-based approach, and they reinforce each other. Now that you see successes in each one, it makes me want to push harder. And I think I faced a similar issue at the very beginning of each when I was over 400 pounds, and then a year or two prior when I had over 40,000 on a single credit card, right? Or when I was living somewhere where there's just not a synagogue around, right? So I'm just not going to be religious, right? There's things of that nature. I tried therapy and I wasn't super impressed with it. So I just, then I can't fix my mental health, right? It was, you get stuck in that state of mind that's very similar to all those places. And you have to take those first steps in each one of those, right? Make that first time making an extra credit card payment, that first time reaching out to God again, that first time walking into the gym at over 400 pounds. It's those initial steps, and they feel very similar for each one, even though they're, very different actual acts. And so driving them all together and being reinforced by the small successes in each one has been a huge part of the journey.
Yes, I love it. So almost success breeds success. You get one, you're like, oh, I can do this. I might be able to do this, and I love that. And it's just, and so all areas of your life are getting better. You're moving closer towards your goals versus just saying, like you said, 40,000 in credit card debt. I give up.
Yeah, exactly. It's very easy to get out. Yes, exactly.
I give up. Yeah. I give up. But no, you proved yourself. Well, I can do it here. Maybe I'll do it here. And I love that. And I love that the same sort of trial and error method has been successful in all areas of your life now. That's very encouraging. So, what message would you like to leave with others who might be in similar situation to where you were last year and don't know how to get started? You're seeing an error message. You're looking in the mirror. You're not happy with what you see. Maybe you even got debt that you don't know how to deal with. What would be your words? What would you tell those people that might be looking and saying, I'm completely stuck. There's no way forward.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the main things that I tell people is, especially men, is that no man is an island. And I know it's very hard to talk about mental health for men because we're not supposed to have feelings and emotions, but we do. And admitting to myself and then being able to admit to my family and my friends that I might have some problems. I've never been diagnosed with anything. I don't want to misrepresent it, but there was clearly something going on in my head to get me over 400 pounds, right? That's not just eating like a little bit too much every day. That's something way beyond that, right? And so admitting to yourself and then admitting to others that you might need a support network, that you might need people in person and online, and that you aren't an island. I wish I could convince my earlier self of that. And the other thing is we live in a world of instant gratification, instant dopamine hits, and everything has to happen immediately, right? You have these 4-second TikTok videos. I'm fat in this picture. I'm not fat in this picture. But between that was a year, 2 years, 5 years.
Yes.
And so one of the things I try to document that, sometimes I see those troll comments that are a little annoyed with it is there are going to be some weeks when I lose, only 0.8 pounds and I look identical, right? Because I'm still 290 some pounds, right? There's still a long way to go. And so the slow, the steady, the sustainable, and the sane approach to getting rid of $40,000 on one credit card, right, to getting 100 pounds down and the next 100 pounds down, that's how I'm going to do it. And before I had tried these fad diets, these crash diets, the biggest loser type, 4, 5, 6 hours of exercising a day while being in 1,000 calorie deficit, you only eat lettuce, right? And it works, for a month or two. It looks good on a TV show. It looks good in a tweet, but then you're miserable. You fall off the diet, you gain it all back. And so taking a much more slow and thought out approach is one other thing I really would leave with people in my situation or worse. And the last thing I would say is just that you will find experts on the internet who will tell you anything and everything, usually because they're trying to sell you something.
Yes.
And I would highly recommend, let's say, making your own path, figuring out what works for you. The diet I started on a year ago is similar to what I'm doing now, but not the same. The exercise is very different. And so I have built that over the last year. But the point was, at the beginning, I didn't know what worked, but at that point, I knew what didn't work. Right. Mm-hmm. I knew that eating all of that junk food, the fast food, the processed food, the packaged food, all the food that was handed through my car window, I knew that wasn't working for me. I knew drinking my calories wasn't working for me. I knew I was probably drinking too much alcohol, right? And I knew swiping that credit card that often was not working for me. I didn't have a full strategy from how I was going to go from 400 and something to 100 and something, but I knew what needed to stop initially. I didn't know what to do in the gym, right? But I knew I needed to get to the gym as opposed to not getting to the gym. And so that is really where I started. I didn't have the knowledge, but I had the knowledge of what not to do. And I think a lot of people are probably in that place and then stuck by doing too much analysis or the intimidation or the shame of not knowing what to do, but knowing how you got there and what doesn't work. So if you can stop doing those things and take that first step, that was really, the first month or two at least, that's what it took to get the ball rolling for me. And just remember to reach out to people. I try to respond to as many DMs as I can, but I know it's very hard, especially for men, even me talking about it, but I try to just reinforce the message that when you reach out to other men in the gym or elsewhere, even when I post a steak picture and I screwed up the steak, right? I have chefs who've been on the Food Network reaching out to me, giving me their numbers, telling me to FaceTime them the next time so that I can make sure I get that sear right, the reverse sear on that steak right. Amazing, right? We men will support each other, but we have a hard time asking. We have a hard time reaching out. And I would just suggest to me, or it doesn't have to be to me, right? But reach out and ask for it. Guys are the most supportive people that I've met, but you have to ask, right? And so I wish 400 plus pound Dave realized that a couple of years ago.
That's great. Well, I don't think that guy will ever exist again. Based on my conversation with you and what I'm seeing, that guy is long gone. And 100 pound Dave is in the future for sure.
Thank
100,
you.
Whatever, at some point, whatever your goal is.
That's the right. Starting with a 1, that's the goal.
Start with a 1, right? That's fantastic. This has been fantastic, Dave. I really appreciate you taking time out of your day and coming on the show and talking about your journey, because I think it is really helpful for people to hear this and to be inspired by your story and to realize that you might feel stuck, but you can take you can move forward, and there are ways to move forward. And just like you, take a trial and error approach. Whatever you feel like you're stuck at is you can move forward. And I love what you say is don't be afraid to reach out to others. Men tend to be, we tend to keep everything in, but as soon as someone asks us for help, we're gonna dive in there. We're gonna help. And I like that piece of advice you provide is don't be afraid to ask. Don't be afraid to, and again, we talk about this on the show too, is don't be afraid to suck.
Yeah,
right. Some people don't want to do something because they're like, well, I don't want to go for a run because I'm going to look stupid. I don't want to go use this piece of gym equipment. But in anything you do in life, you're going to suck when you first start, and don't be afraid to suck. And just keep at it until you get to where you're excellent at something. So
agreed.
I love that. Very encouraging message. Dave, how can people find out more about you and follow you on your journey?
Absolutely. I'm Dave E. Danna on Twitter and on Facebook, and I'm David E. Danna on Instagram. Someone else has Dave E. Danna. But yeah, you can find me. Those are my main 3 platforms. I have a small YouTube channel but in general, I'm the fat guy posting gym selfies at Planet Fitness at 4:30 a.m. If you're seeing that, then that's me.
Absolutely. And we're going to go ahead and put links in the show notes for all those resources so you can connect with Dave. You can watch his journey and be inspired by his journey, just like I am. Dave, thank you for taking time out of your day. Thank you for sharing your journey, and thanks for all that you're doing. And congratulations for all your success up to this point.
Pleasure being here. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, thanks again. Well, that's it for today. Thank you for listening to Deep Leadership. If you like this podcast, please subscribe and share so we can continue to build a world with better bosses. Until next time, this is John Rennie saying take care and lead well.
Thank you for listening to Deep Leadership.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you for all you do.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode. For more information and updates, please visit our website at www.deepleadershippodcast.com or johnsrennie.com. Until next time, take care.
Miles, are you ready to record our promo for Season 2 of the Wanna Bet podcast?
David, have you ever seen a grown man naked?
Miles, we're not here to quote lines from Airplane. We're here to tell people that Season 2 starts August 18th.
But I like Airplane.
I know you do, but Wanna Bet is a sports betting podcast. Each week we bet $1,000 on the NFL teams and games that we love.
Well, that sounds like fun.
It is fun. And last year you picked over 60% of your games correctly.
How'd you do?
We're not talking about that. We are telling people that they can find us every Friday. So no more movie quotes.
Roger.
Electricast. Welcome to the Reverie Channel, where entertainment knows no bounds. Live concerts, on-demand music, documentaries, and short films, all in stunning HD. Now on Roku TV, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire. Immerse yourself from home. And on Android and iOS for those on the move. Support creators with crowdfunding donations. Fuel their creativity. Join us in shaping entertainment's future. The Reverie Channel, where every view, every donation matters.